Because on Thursday evening, Donald Trump was found guilty on all 34 counts in his hush money case.
Stephen Colbert destroys Trump on an episode of his show. Trump was found guilty. This verdict lets us know that the judicial system is alive, and everyone will be punished for their horrible actions. As the Post reported, on May 30th, history was made when former President Donald Trump was found criminally guilty by a 12-person jury of his peers, thus becoming the first and only former president of the United States to be a felon. The rule of law and the principle that no person is above it both prevailed, which is particularly rewarding being a member and practitioner in continuous good standing of a state bar for more than half a century. But while a New York jury won this battle for the nation, the war rages on, as reflected by the remarks Mr. Trump made after the verdict arrived. He asserted, as he has done for years with anything that doesn't go his way, that the case against him was rigged, that our country is in decline, that the trial judge was against him, although the judge performed admirably, that he was not tried by his peers, despite refusing to testify, and that the Biden administration was responsible, although the case was brought by a state district attorney according to that state's law, over which President Biden had no influence. Mr. Trump and his minions are attempting to delegitimize our rule of law and our justice system, as we have seen occur in third world countries and Russia. We cannot allow this to happen. Voters from both sides of the aisle must ensure that Trump's warped, dictatorial, and incredibly disingenuous thinking does not prevail on November 5th.
Yes, I agree. This is truly an historic moment as Donald Trump becomes the first U.S. president convicted of a crime.
Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America, has made history as the first president of the country to be convicted of a crime. This development came as a shock to many, as never before has the leader of the nation faced such disgrace after his tenure in the White House. The charges against Trump included abuse of power, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Under his leadership, the U.S. has experienced an unprecedented number of scandals and investigations related to his administration and personal affairs. One of the most high-profile cases was the accusation of trying to pressure Ukraine to obtain dirt on political opponent Joe Biden, which ultimately led to his impeachment by the House of Representatives in 2019. Although the Senate acquitted him then, the trials continued, and Trump was unable to escape justice after his term ended. After losing the 2020 election, Trump and his allies attempted to challenge the election results, leading to the storming of the Capitol on the 6th of January 2021. This act of violence and disorder, fueled by Trump's rhetoric, was condemned around the world and sparked new investigations. In 2023, a court found him guilty of sedition and obstruction of Congress. The trials, accompanied by numerous revelations and testimonies, have uncovered numerous irregularities and crimes related to financial fraud, tax evasion, and business fraud. Trump and his organization have been repeatedly accused of defrauding investors and government agencies, resulting in multi-million-dollar fines and compensation. This conviction of Trump was an important warning to future leaders that no one is above the law, and that even the highest office in the land does not protect from accountability for crimes. His downfall symbolized the collapse of an empire built on lies and manipulation, and forever changed the political landscape of the U.S.
You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice and soft.
Nice? Nice and soft as you think of the judge of the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, has found himself at the center of a high-profile trial where he is facing serious charges. However, instead of pleading guilty, Trump has chosen the tactic of attack, claiming that all the charges against him are trumped up. He has repeatedly claimed that the judges leading his case are corrupt and that current President Joe Biden allegedly paid them to convict him. In speeches and social media posts, Trump has called the judicial system unfair and bribed. He claims that Democrats, including Biden, are using their influence to discredit him and eliminate him as a political rival. Trump also claims that the process against him is politically motivated and aimed at undermining his reputation before the next presidential election. His supporters actively support this version of events, organizing rallies and protests in his defense. They are also spreading information about alleged evidence of corruption among judges and Biden's ties to the judiciary. In response, Trump's legal team has filed several lawsuits demanding the removal of the judges from the case and a new investigation. Despite these allegations, officials and independent experts reject Trump's claims, calling them baseless. They emphasize that the trials are being conducted in accordance with the law, and that the allegations against Trump are backed by substantial evidence. Nevertheless, the strategy of attacking judges and Biden's allegations of corruption continue to be the central line of Trump's defense. This trial has been yet another stage in the tumultuous political career of Donald Trump, who, despite all the accusations and court battles, continues to be an influential figure in American politics. His attempts to justify himself by accusing others of corruption only serve to polarize society and undermine confidence in the judicial system.
Because according to a new poll, 50% of voters believe Trump is guilty, 30% say he's innocent, and 19% are not sure because they're too busy eating delicious paint chips. In another poll, 51% Trump should end his presidential campaign.
The trial did not end in Donald Trump's favor. The court found him guilty on all charges, rejecting his allegations of corrupt judges and bribery by Joe Biden. This decision was a powerful blow to Trump's reputation and seriously weakened his position in the political arena. Against the backdrop of this defeat, Trump decided to run for president, hoping to regain power and prove his innocence. However, the court verdict and subsequent public condemnation played a role. Voters, tired of scandals and instability, preferred a candidate who offered a more stable and predictable future. Trump's campaign was filled with the same old accusations and promises, but this time they did not resonate with the majority of voters. Having lost the election, Trump finds himself in the position of a political pariah. His attempts to justify himself and discredit his opponents did not bring the desired result. Former allies began to distance themselves from him, realizing that supporting Trump could have a negative impact on their own political careers. Media and public figures continued to criticize him for trying to undermine confidence in the judicial system and the democratic process. In the end, Trump left politics, making history as the first U.S. president to be convicted of crimes and lose an election afterwards. His era, full of scandals and conflicts, came to an end, leaving behind a trail of deep divisions and discontent in American society. This defeat symbolized the collapse of a once powerful political figure whose star faded under the weight of his own mistakes and legal problems.
It's totally legal. In fact, signing an NDA proves I'm innocent because it stands for not did anything. Am I right? I'm being told that I'm right.
What do you think when you look at Trump without paying attention to his past and current standing? Probably the following. He is a wealthy man who runs a successful business and spends a lot of money on all his wants and his family. I don't think so. This man only gives that impression. He lost all his money in a lawsuit. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is running out of money for legal expenses, Bloomberg reports, citing his campaign finance data. Donald Trump spent $4.9 million on legal fees in March, and only $6.8 million remains in the accounts he uses to fund his lawyers, which could cause him financial problems amid rising legal costs, the agency writes. It is noted that Trump finances his litigation thanks to the Save America Committee, which raises funds from donors. He also asked for help from the richest man, Elon Musk. But the latter refused to support anyone. Trump got desperate and offered Musk to buy his platform. But the latter still turned him down and left Trump with no hope. The agency adds that Trump may try to use his own fortune or raise more money from donors to fund his legal cases, with the agency noting that the Republican Party National Committee has refused to cover Trump's legal fees. According to the Financial Times, Trump has spent about a quarter of his campaign donations, more than $76 million on legal expenses since January 2023. In February, the court found Trump guilty of fraud in the valuation of Trump Organization assets and ordered him to pay about $355 million. The total fine rose to $454 million, including interest. In addition, the Republican was banned for 3 years to work as an employee or director of any corporation in the state of New York and to apply for loans in any financial institution registered in the state of New York. Trump has appealed the ruling.
Cohen testified that it was Melania's idea to characterize Trump's comments as mere locker room talk. Well, that makes sense, because anytime Trump tries to get near Melania, she locker room.
Another problem besides finances that Trump has faced is difficulties in his relationship with his wife. Melania Trump might be sticking by her man in public, but privately, the former First Lady has little interest in Donald Trump's expanding tangle of legal woes, including his latest Georgia indictment, which she reportedly views as another problem for her husband, not for her. The 53-year-old Melania has spent most of her summer in New York City, while her 77-year-old husband has weathered an avalanche of 91 federal and state charges spanning 4 different jurisdictions at his golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. Melania prefers a life with 100% privacy and no press scrutiny, a social source told People magazine. According to the anonymous source, Trump's third wife believes there has been too much dumping on him and wants nothing to do with any of it. Earlier this week, the former commander-in-chief was slapped with his 4th indictment in just 5 months, having been charged along with 18 of his allies with trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. She hates all of the legal problems and says very little about them anytime, anywhere, the source told the magazine of Melania. She leads her own life. While her husband has been busy fending off prosecutors in different states and campaigning for president, Melania has retreated into her small circle of family and very few trusted friends, according to the social source. So this 4th indictment is another problem for her husband, not for her, the source added. Another person speaking to People said it's unclear where Melania was on Monday night, when Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis unsealed the bombshell indictment against Trump, charging him with 13 felony counts, including Georgia's version of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO. The GOP primary frontrunner also faces federal charges related to election interference culminating in the January 6, 2021, Capitol riot, and for keeping classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, and state charges in New York stemming from alleged hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. A Trump insider recently told Page Six that Melania has been credited by the ex-president's friends with keeping him calm and focused in the face of his mounting legal troubles.
Trump's got moral support today from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, seen here after accidentally thinking about the word nipple.
It's funny how Stephen Colbert is sarcastic about Trump's support. You know, supporting a former president who has so many criminal cases pending is a hopeless idea. I'm all in for President Trump, Johnson said. I expect he'll be our nominee, and we have to make Biden a one-term president. Johnson, the second person in line to the presidency and the country's highest-ranking Republican, is making an unusually early decision to boost Trump, while there are still several candidates in the GOP presidential primary field. His posture stands in contrast to that of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Archi, who has stayed on the sidelines. Johnson's comments to CNBC were part of a broader round of media interviews ahead of a planned vote by the House to consider a bill that would avert a government shutdown, which is a major test for the new speaker. We've heard a lot of good ideas and solutions from the speaker lately, but this one completely shocked me, and I think you too. Johnson was a relatively unknown Louisiana congressman who had been in office since 2017 when he surfaced as a House Speaker nominee last month, amid his party's chaotic effort to replace the ousted Speaker, Rep. Kevin McCarthy, R. Califee. McCarthy, as Speaker, stopped short of formally endorsing Trump's 2024 bid. But a new Speaker came in who was to the liking of the Republicans and Trump because they were trying to impeach President Biden and to oust him from the presidency as soon as possible. Their attempts were unsuccessful, and they lost time and time again.
I'm an attorney. I'm a former litigator myself. I am disgusted by what is happening here.
I've heard things today that disgust me. Woman layeth with man outside holy wedlock?
Speaker Mike Johnson slammed the case against Donald Trump as so corrupt and warned the public not to believe a word Michael Cohen says on the stand on Tuesday. It's impossible for anybody to deny that looks at this objectively, that the judicial system in our country has been weaponized against President Trump. The system is using all the tools at its disposal right now to punish one president and provide cover for another, Johnson said in brief remarks outside the courthouse. Johnson also went after Judge Juan Merchan's daughter. Among the atrocities here, the judge's own daughter is making millions of dollars doing online fundraising for Democrats. They're using this trial as a hook. It's so corrupt. Merchan's daughter, Lauren, runs a digital marketing agency called Authentic Campaigns, which works with Democratic candidates and nonprofits. Trump's lawyers have argued her work poses a conflict of interest and have unsuccessfully sought to oust Merchan from the case. I honestly don't fully understand how they operate and why they do so. What is the purpose of involving children in the case? Republicans have always been known for their brutal approach, and they are not liked because of it.
In court today, the trial is in session, and it continued today with the defense's cross-examination of former fixer and wet sock watching you leave it behind at the laundromat.
A lot of good news came to light today. Stephen Colbert mocked the ridiculous situation with Donald Trump's former defense lawyer testifying against him. Prosecutors took care to emphasize at the start of former President Donald Trump's Manhattan criminal trial last month that their credibility-challenged witness Michael Cohen's testimony would be corroborated by evidence. The message: you don't have to take his word for it. But on some key aspects of the case, they've still been forced to rely on Cohen's say-so. That made the cross-examination of Cohen this week the most high-stakes moment of the trial. On Thursday, after extensive grilling of Cohen, Trump's lawyers finally drew blood. But how much did it undermine Cohen's credibility and potentially the prosecution itself? Trump's lawyer adamantly claimed he had caught Cohen in a lie from just days earlier. That's not quite so clear, but there is no question that what transpired Thursday could cause jurors to second-guess key claims from Cohen. A witness they'll be well aware has admitted to lying in proceedings before, on Trump's behalf. Given the importance of the exchange, it's worth a parsing. The focal point of the dispute is an 8:02 p.m. phone call on October 24, 2016, during which Cohen discussed the Stormy Daniels hush money payment with Trump, he testified. Prosecutors briefly broached the 8:02 p.m. call Monday during Cohen's first day of testimony. Cohen said he had contacted Trump's bodyguard, Keith Schiller, to discuss the Stormy Daniels matter and the resolution of it. The prosecutor asked whether the conversation included having resolved that you were moving forward to fund the deal. Cohen replied, yes. But Trump's lawyers suggested Thursday that this never happened, and they presented evidence that would suggest that the purpose of the call was entirely different. Trump lawyer Todd Blanche noted that shortly before the phone call, Cohen had been texting with Schiller about another matter. Harassing phone calls he had been receiving, including from a phone whose user identified themselves as 14 years old.
Trump's team went after Cohen hard on the cross-examination, trying to depict him as a serial liar for revenge. Michael, we have so much in common. Serial lying, lying about cereal, you know.
There is indeed such a trend behind Trump. He denies anything, even obvious facts that are supported by evidence. He tries to slip away from the case and calls Michael Cohen a mere liar. Next, Trump's lawyer starts giving silly facts about the case that have nothing to do with anything going on. He said Cohen had falsely testified to the purpose of the call, and he suggested that a phone call lasting 1 minute 36 seconds was too brief to have included talking to Schiller about both the harassment and the Daniels payment. That was a lie, Blanche said twice. Cohen stood by his testimony, but he also seemed to qualify it. Part of it was the 14-year-old, but I know that Keith was with Mr. Trump at the time, and there was more than potentially just this, Cohen said. That's what I recall based upon the documents that I reviewed. Cohen said his comments about the hush money could have been as brief as saying everything is being taken care of. It's going to get resolved. Blanche challenged Cohen to admit that he hadn't even spoken to Trump on the phone call. Cohen responded, "No, sir, I can't admit that. I am not certain that is accurate." Based upon the records that I was able to review, in light of everything that was going on, Cohen added, I believe I also spoke to Mr. President Trump and told him everything regarding the Stormy Daniels matter was being worked on and it's going to be resolved. Cohen went on to say that he hadn't had his memory refreshed about the texts with Schiller, including by prosecutors, before Thursday's testimony. So what does it all mean? The evidence does not prove that Cohen and Trump didn't speak on the phone call or that they didn't speak about Daniels, but Cohen had testified that he contacted to Schiller because I needed to speak to Mr. Trump to discuss the Stormy Daniels matter. At the very least, the new evidence suggests that the immediate impetus for the call was something different, the harassment Cohen was receiving. Neither prosecutors nor Cohen had broached that Monday, for whatever reason. And under cross-examination, Cohen seemed to allow that he was relying on a reconstruction of events. A reconstruction that, before Thursday, did not include the texts with Schiller.
To try to prove that Cohen was deeply biased and eager to see Donald Trump punished, Trump's lawyer played a clip of Cohen's podcast in which he celebrated Trump's indictment. Reportedly, on the clip, Cohen sounded giddy, high-pitched, and was speaking so fast that if you didn't know better, you'd think the tape had been artificially sped up.
Any attempt for Trump to cling on so he can accuse Cohen of wrongdoing has been exploited. They did everything they could to get away with it, as Trump usually does. But to me, they failed. He gave testimony that will influence the court's decision. But Cohen's testimony Thursday was also notably less firm. While he testified directly Monday to the purpose of the call being the Daniels payment, and the payment having indeed been discussed, on Thursday he used phrases like, "What I recall based upon the documents I received, I am not certain." Blanche's characterization is accurate. Potentially, and I believe. The importance of the October 24th phone call is debatable. Prosecutors didn't dwell on it or go into much detail, and it's evident that Trump reimbursed Cohen for the hush money later. But such a conversation, if it actually happened, would help prosecutors establish that Trump was included early on in the alleged conspiracy to cover up the payment. And more than that, it could give jurors reason to doubt the testimony of someone they'll probably already have viewed skeptically, and whose key claims, despite the insistence of prosecutors, simply can't all be backed up by other evidence. Donald Trump, the former U.S. president, has found himself at the center of litigation since leaving office. His company, the Trump Organization, has faced a number of legal challenges, including tax and financial investigations. Prosecutors from New York and Georgia are investigating various aspects of Trump and his company. In particular, there is interest in possible tax fraud and illegal use of campaign finance. Trump denies any wrongdoing and calls these investigations politically motivated. At the same time, various civil and criminal lawsuits have been filed against him personally, related to both his business and his actions while in office. The lawsuits surrounding Donald Trump continue to attract widespread public attention and remain the subject of lively debate in political and legal circles. People are stepping up and beginning to realize that such a president is not good for us. Where can he lead our nation? What will happen to us tomorrow if Trump becomes president? I think it's a bad idea. We deserve a better candidate, not a fart who has so many mistakes behind him and is causing so many problems for us and our future. What do you think about that? Write your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.